Hello everyone, my name is Hui Zhang, and I'm the doctor of Chinese medicine and a licensed acupuncturist. Today I'm going to use this time to talk about Chinese herbal medicine. Hope you all enjoy it.
When mentioning about Chinese medicine in this country, people here often think about acupuncture. There is no doubt acupuncture becomes more embraced and well accepted in Western society. However, acupuncture only makes a half of traditional Chinese medicine, and the other half is herbal medicine. Herbal medicine to Chinese medicine is like pharmacy to Western medicine, and in fact, in Asia, herbal medicine is as commonly used as acupuncture, and it is even more important in treating certain conditions. Due to the fact that Chinese herbal medicine is still relatively unknown in this country, I would like to introduce Chinese herbal medicine's background, concept, and usage through this info session. So if it is your first time learning about Chinese herbal medicine, you might wonder what can Chinese herbal medicine treat, when to use it, and how does it work. Before I talk about all these points, I would like to share a little bit of story and history. Based on existing written records, Chinese herbal medicine has a history of over 5,000 years. Our ancestors developed herbal medicine system starting from gathering and tasting the single herbs to investigate their action in human body. Chinese people believe that Shen Nong is the first herb master who gathered hundreds of herbs in nature and tastes herb by himself to study the function. The legend also says Shen Nong has a transparent belly, so he can see through his belly. And also, by doing this, he can see the direction and action of each herb he ingested. So he can study where it goes and what it does to the body. And you can see from the picture in PowerPoint Fig 1, he has two horns on the forehead, maybe temporal area. It is to be said that that was because he had too much herbs, and actually some of those herbs contain some toxicity, and then over time those toxicity build up in his body, and that horn is just a result from those toxicity. But anyway, those are kind of the legend, the story, mouse by mouse. But I think it's because people, if they made up the story, they just want to show how dedicated Shen Nong is to study single herbs and how much sacrifice he made for this medicine. So afterwards, Shen Nong then wrote Shen Nong Herbal Classics, which is thought to be the first compiled herbal book in Chinese history. Later on, as the single herb system established, many Chinese herbal medicine masters then compile and formulate groups of herbs into formulas to treat corresponding disease pattern. Throughout the history, this medicine modality got passed down generation by generation with books, apprenticeship, and through family lineage. Until today, Chinese herbal medicine keeps developing with history. So until now, it is a very mature system, have over 1,800 herbs in its system. And as a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, we are required to know functions and the characteristics of these herbs. And the herbs included in Chinese herbal medicine are mostly plants, some minerals, and a few animal products. So one of the questions I commonly got people who never try or have less knowledge about Chinese herbal medicine is, what is it good for? Before I answer this question, I must clarify a point. The diseases or condition we commonly refer to are defined in modern time. Chinese medicine as an Asian practice categorizes signs and symptoms into patterns. So acupuncture and herb are under Chinese medicine, this big umbrella. So they follow the same principle. They are used to treat those patterns, like instead of those modern diseases. So for example, like diabetic, there's many people have diabetic, and different people may have different signs and symptoms. However, if like one individual signs and symptom can be categorized into one pattern in Chinese medicine, it can be treated with a corresponding acupuncture and herbal technique. However, I can say gastrointestinal, OBGYN, pain for both acute and chronic issue, psycho-emotional issues are common things people came for. But there are so much more. So Chinese medicine can really treat a variety of diseases. Chinese herbal medicine and acupuncture are complementary therapeutic modality often used together in traditional Chinese medicine treatment. Although acupuncture and herbs are two different modalities, they are directed by one Chinese medicine philosophy, which means they can work together to target one issue from different routes. Acupuncture stimulates the channel from exterior. If you ever try acupuncture, you will feel some heavy sensation when needle stimulates. So that is actually the needle sending signal to regulate nervous system so they can achieve the proper regulation internally. Herbs, on the other hand, go directly internal through oral intake, providing more direct and long-lasting effects. Herbs and acupuncture work together can bidirectionally reinforce effects of the treatment. In my practice, when I see a new patient, I will start with assessment by using pulse, tongue, abdominal diagnosis, and inquiry to determine the pattern, then treat with acupuncture. After 1 to 2 times of acupuncture treatments, patients' response to the acupuncture treatment can actually help me further confirm my earlier diagnosis of the pattern. After that, I will start to introduce herbs to the patient, which can work in the same direction as the previous treatment to reinforce the effects. The benefits of herbal medicine is that it can continue the treatment effect throughout the whole course, even the time without acupuncture. So for example, if you are doing acupuncture only once a week, and then the day without acupuncture, the effects might diminish, but if you have the herb, it can continue the effects and even accumulates the positive regulation to the body. Next, I will talk about how does herbs work in our body to treat imbalance. The idea of Chinese medicine is that human body resembles a microsystem of a natural ecosystem. What nature and human body both aim for is a relative balance. Actually, there should be no absolute balance, because it is imbalance actually creates movement and dynamic for circulation. Just like air moving from high atmosphere pressure to low atmosphere pressure, water always likes to flow from high to low. The normal differences in potential energy create circulation and living force. And the living force in human body is actually moving blood nutrients, electrical impulses. They constantly flush like a river, and the river bed or pathway for this to happen, referred by Chinese medicine as meridians. Our body itself is a water ecosystem. In nature, spring emerge from the underground source, like the spring, and forming the stream, the water stream, flow from high to low in the riverbed into the ocean in the end. And then there's evaporation. The evaporation creates a cloud in the sky. The underground water and the clouds are two forms of water in nature. Say underground water is yin and the cloud in the sky is yang. They rely on each other to exist. Yin and yang, like two forms of water, are interchangeable and interdependent. However, there are many factors in our environment and lifestyles can cause too much imbalance, stopping this flow. When difference is too much, like the imbalancement is too big, the yin and yang can actually lose a connection to each other. And then without connection, they cannot generate each other. So one become too excess and the other one become too deficient. And in the end, they are both depleted. The concept of the yin and yang is actually a very core and critical idea, not only in Chinese medicine, but also the whole Chinese philosophy. So if people are interested, I can talk about it more in the future info session when we introduce the philosophy behind the Chinese medicine. But today I just focus on the herbs. So there's many factors in nature cause big imbalance. Those are very common. For example, in the winter, the coldness can freeze the water in the river and the river becomes still. There's no water flow. And in the harsh summer, the excess heat can evaporate too much water and dry out the whole river. And then summer in some humid place can sometimes have heavy rains, and then the river ended get flooded. And the overflow of water can actually destroy the whole system. Sometimes the temperature and the water volume are fine, but if there's a literal stagnation, like a stone sitting in the middle of the riverbed, it can impede the water flow too. Those stagnation in our body in Chinese medicine can be referred as a blood stasis or phlegm, depends on the situation. So all this stagnation causes poor circulation. In the end, destroy the riverbed, the meridians. And then you need other herbs or acupuncture to work on. These are all the situations can impede water flow and energy circulation. And so the same thing happen in our body. But if you already have the condition like coldness, dryness, stagnation, or excess overflow, how can you use like Chinese herb to treat that? In Chinese medicine's point of view, everything in nature has their own characteristic, just like we human beings born with our own personalities. Imagine you're a general in a battlefield. You have to guide the whole army. In order to win the battle, you have to evaluate your enemy's strategy and personality, then send the right kind of army to deal with it, right? Chinese medicine also uses herbs characteristic to fight different pathology. They use the same principle. Here are some examples of using herbs characteristic to treat different conditions. The number one picture in the PowerPoint is dry ginger. If you ever taste ginger, I'm sure you did. It's very accurate and spicy. Also, it's warm in temperature. It can solve the coldness in our body, especially in the abdomen area. Actually, all the spiciness, like all the kitchen spice, like fennel, garlic, green onion, they all have a similar characteristic. They are all warm in temperature. They can expel the cold. That's why it's commonly used in the kitchen. It's really good to treat all the food poisoning. Just prevent like something's uncooked and then kill the bacteria, because it's so warm, so it can treat all the flu-like symptoms. There's actually a lot of herbs coming from the food therapy. In the future, I can talk more about the Chinese herbal food therapy too. The number 2 is 麦门冬. The Latin name I already spelled out in the PPT, so my pronunciation might not be so good, so please forgive me. You can read on your own if you want to know the Latin name of it. So 麦门冬 is very sweet and cool in the temperature. It's also very moist in the texture. It generates fluid and treats dryness in our body. Like those dryness is almost like droughts in the nature. So 麦门冬 is like something can call the rain to alleviate the dryness in the nature. Same thing in our body. Number 3 is 黄芩, Baco skullcap root. It's very bitter in taste and cold in temperature. The texture of it is very astringent, so the coldness of it can clear the heat, and the bitterness in Chinese medicine have a drying nature. So it can dry the dampness and also cool the heat. So really good to treat the flooding in some humid place. So in our body, we can have the heat combined with the dampness together, which can be really tangly and very stubborn condition. 黄芩 is a really good herb to dry the dampness, at the same time clear the excess heat. The fourth one I'm going to talk about is 牡蛎. 牡蛎 is oyster shell. It came from the salt water, so the taste of it is very salty. Oyster shell's saltiness and the hard texture together can softening the hardness in the meridian, in the channels, in the blood vessel. It's very clearing, so it can also push the stagnation downwards. Another good feature of it is very heavy, it's moving downward, so also really good to calm your unsettled mind. Really good for sleep, this herb. Other than using its own temperature and the texture to treat different pathology, All herbs have their own direction and targets to go when they enter the body. Chinese medicine categorizes organs, actually not only organ, everything in nature into 5 systems. Like the flavor, sound, smell, they can all categorize into 5 systems. And name those 5 systems as 5 elements. The 5 elements are fire, wood, earth, metal, water. And actually those flavors, like they can all categorize into those 5 systems. Like sweetness go to the earth, the sourness belong to the wood, the spiciness is the metal, etc. And then look at the PowerPoint on the right side. Here's a really good illustration about how they categorize our organ system in our body into 5 elements too. So the heart, the circulation system is fire elements. The liver, gallbladder is wood system. Spleen, stomach in the center, which represents digestive system, it belongs to the earth element. The lung is respiratory system. It's a metal element. And the kidney in the lower body, and also including the reproductive system, they're water elements. So the idea is the herb with a specific flavor will go to the organ that share the same elements as the flavor. I know it's a little bit confusing. I can give an example. After example, it might be easier to understand. The most important, the ginseng might be the most famous herbs, commonly understood in the Western society. I'm not sure about it, but I guess. So ginseng is actually not one herb. It's a family of herbs. So within ginseng family, different herb, like they have slight differences in their taste, flavor, and characteristic. For example, 党参 and 人参, they are both ginseng. Shen means ginseng in Chinese. So the differences between 党参 and ginseng is 党参 is much sweeter than ginseng. Remember the sweetness I mentioned earlier is belong to the earth element. So, and the stomach spleen is also earth element, which means when 党参 enter your body, it tends to go directly to your digestive system, your center. And on the other hand, ginseng is less sweet and it's like much more neutral in the flavor. It's very tonifying, so it tends to tonify equally all 5 organs. And the 党参 tend to tonify specifically for the digestive system in your center. I hope that makes sense, but I tried my best. Another concept in Chinese herbal medicine is using the part to treat the part. These herbs come from different parts of the plant, so it depends on what part it is in the plant. It goes to the similar parts in our human body. Here are some examples to help you better understand this concept. Picture 1 is cinnamon twig. As a twig, it's kind of resemble the arm and fingertips in the human body. So when cinnamon twig enters your body, it also goes to extremities in the first place. The picture 2 is magnolia bark. The bark is a trunk of the plant, and it disassembles our abdomen, our trunk, the chest, and the belly in human body. And also, it's very aromatic, so really good to open the air pathway and super refreshing. When you have some gas and bloating after eating, basically all the qi stagnation in your digestive tract, magnolia bark can directly go to abdomen and clear those pathways for you. So the to-go herb for all those food stagnation and constipation, gas and bloating. Number 3 is ginseng root. We briefly talked about it in the last slides. It's a root. So like the root of plant, it supplies all the nutrients for the plant to grow. Like our body, we need that source qi to continue supply the energy. So ginseng as a root can go to really essential, the deep constitution in our body, like very essential organ tonification. The root concept of ginseng really makes it such an important tonifying herb in our herbal medicine. The fourth one is ginseng. Again, I type out the Latin name for you to read. It's really hard for me to pronounce it. 荆芥 is very light. Actually, it's a very tip of the plant. There's like a little picture on the fourth one. It's a really, really tip, even on the branch of the plant. Because it's light-weighted and also very superficial in the plant, it also goes to very superficial in our body, which is our skin level. So whenever you have the external attack like the flu, you can use a 荆芥 this type of herb to open your pores to promote the sweat. So in that way, you can expel all the pathogen much faster than just waiting for it to leave. There's so much more. I just bring up those little examples for you to understand. I know like in the past 3 slides is a lot of information and a lot of understanding, but these are just some like the major and the basic concept about how Chinese medicine utilizing herbs characteristic to treat different conditions and go to different areas in our body, how to direct the formula to a certain area to treat the localized issues. But there's so much more, like we use the smell, the weight, texture, and even the season of harvesting, the location of where the plants grow, all play the important roles in deciding the function of the herbs in our body. I hope I got more opportunity in the future to talk about this more. But if anyone have interest want to ask more questions, feel free to contact me to know more about it. Up to this point now, we have been talking about single herb function, but does Chinese herbal system rely on single herb function or maybe some chemical components in one ingredient to treat only? The answer is definitely no. Actually, we need sets of herbs work together like a team to treat the patterns. Here comes the term formula. I would like to introduce the structure inside the formula now and what are Chinese medicine doctors thinking when composing the formula. There are 4 characters in the formula generally: the king, deputy, assistant, and envoy. Kim herb, like the name tell, Kim is the one who decides the direction for the whole formula, and then it's basically treating the chief complaint. The second one is deputy herb. Deputy is like in modern society like the prime minister of a country. And when king have a vision, have a plan for a country, prime minister is the one who actually need to examine the plan and then make the whole thing come true. So it's a great help for the king herb to realize everything. The third one is assistant herb. It's like a secretary. And assistant herb can assist us the function, the action of king and deputy herb. But also sometimes it can be used in checking the king and the deputy. For example, when king and the prime minister making mistake, you need a very detail-oriented secretary who makes suggestion when they can possibly overdo something or there's some imperfection in the plan. Such as when formula is too hot because both king and deputy are very warm, so assistant herb actually in this time need to be cooling in temperature to prevent overheating, so it counterbalancing the warm nature of king and deputy. The last one is envoy. Envoy is a guiding herb. Similar to a general in a war, envoy can guide the formula to a certain direction. So the whole formula can be more targeted to where the symptom or pathology is. For example, in the last slides, I talk about cinnamon twig. It's a twig, so it goes to extremity. So with the 桂枝, the cinnamon twigs help. It can guide the whole formula to the joints to treating, for example, arthritis in the finger joints. Another scenario is that the envoys can actually harmonize the whole formula. It can encourage the whole team to work together to one direction and to perform the best to treating the certain pathology in certain area. That's a concept of forming the formula. After knowing all the benefits of Chinese herbal medicine, a lot of people still hesitant to do it because they're concerned if it's going to be too much work, too much time, and maybe the whole preparation process, cooking the raw herb, will make the whole house smell like herbal decoction. Not necessarily have to be that because we now live in 21st century, very lucky. We have other alternative way to deliver the herbs. Now many factory make the herb into granular form and even tablets. So super convenient to take. And then you can also capsule those granules into little capsules. So take like supplements. For the external application, we have form of tincture. Basically, tincture is you soaking the raw herb, all the ingredients into high degree alcohol and then store for a couple months. The alcohol will extract all the essence from the raw herb, and then you apply those tincture liquid to the local trauma area with. If you have a pain, if you have an acute trauma, the tincture will really help speed up the healing process by promoting the qi and blood circulation. And also on the picture, the upper right corner is the paste I made for insect bites. So the ingredients is 紫草 and the other moving blood herbs. If you got insect bites, and the herb insects very cooling, so it can be anti-inflammatory effects to treat the swelling, to treat the itchiness and the pain. So there's a many way to deliver the herb in nowadays now. Depends on your lifestyle. You can always choose the best way to do the herbal medicine, no problem. So here in the slides, I list all my service in my practice. My practice style is highly rely on post-diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, and abdominal assessment. And in treatment, I use acupuncture, and particularly I like to use herb to treat more profound conditions. I really want to expand Chinese herbal medicine's usage. So you can read through all the service I provide. I particularly want to mention herbal consultation, the third one in the PowerPoint. Those are, if you don't want to do like a full session with acupuncture together, I do offer a shorter session. It's a consultation session, which is 30 minutes. But I do want you to come in a sequence at least for 3 weeks, 3 visits. The reasoning is once I give you a formula, I want to see how your body reacts to it and to see if the symptom gets better. And most importantly is my subjective finding, which is a pulse, tongue, abdominal, are those pathology presentation improved from taking the herbal formula. So the feedback is really important. And just in case some dosage or the ingredients need to be adjusted, I need to adjust immediately according to those findings. So it's very important to be consistent for 3 weeks. Then afterwards, when we figure out the right dosage and the right formula for you, the consultation can be scheduled much spread out. And because it's a good formula, you can take it for 3 or 2 weeks, no problem. But the first 3 visits is very critical for me to get all the feedback and make the right changes to the current formula. Thank you so much for making time for this info session. This is my first time making herbal medicine presentation actually. So hope these information are useful for you and you enjoy the presentation. I'm lucky to work with Esther at Inner Spring Center for Health currently at 3361 4th Avenue. If you need any of my service, here are my contact info on the slides. You can contact me through email or text message. And I hope in the future I can introduce more topics about Chinese medicine and its philosophy. Thank you again.